The National Electrical Code, or NEC, sets standards for safe electrical installations. Specifically concerning the mixing of communication cables such as Cat5 with electrical power conductors, there are clear guidelines to follow. NEC Section 800.53, titled Separation from Electrical Conductors, states that communications cable shall not be installed in the same raceway, bundle, or handhole with electrical light or power conductors carrying voltages exceeding 150 volts. This rule is in place to prevent interference and potential safety hazards. When communication cables are run alongside or in close proximity to electrical power cables, there is a risk of electromagnetic interference. This interference can disrupt the signal carried by the communication cable, leading to data loss or corruption. Furthermore, if the insulation on the electrical power cables were to fail, it could energize the communication cable, creating a shock hazard. The NEC also addresses the proper installation of communication outlets. NEC Section 800.153, titled Communications Outlets, specifies that communication outlets shall be installed in accessible locations and shall not be placed in attics or crawl spaces. The purpose of this requirement is to ensure that the outlets are readily available for inspection, maintenance, and repair. Hiding communication outlets in inaccessible locations makes it difficult to troubleshoot problems and perform necessary maintenance. When Cat5 cables are run through walls alongside electrical cables in flex conduit without proper separation, this constitutes a violation of NEC 800.53. The flex conduit is intended for electrical wiring only and should not be used as a shared pathway for both electrical and communication cables. Additionally, when Cat5 cables are simply run through holes in the wall without being terminated in accessible locations, it also violates NEC 800.153. To ensure compliance with the NEC, it is essential to maintain proper separation between communication cables and electrical power conductors. This can be achieved by using separate raceways, such as conduits or cable trays, for each type of cable. The raceways should be properly grounded to minimize the risk of electrical shock. When running communication cables, it is also important to ensure that they are properly supported and protected from physical damage. Cables should be secured with cable ties or other appropriate fasteners and should not be subjected to excessive bending or tension. The location of communication outlets should be carefully considered to ensure that they are easily accessible for inspection, maintenance, and repair. Outlets should be installed in locations that are free from obstructions and that provide adequate working space. In situations where existing installations do not comply with the NEC, it is necessary to take corrective action. This may involve rerouting cables, installing separate raceways, or relocating outlets. It is always advisable to consult with a qualified electrician or electrical contractor to ensure that all work is performed in accordance with the NEC. Adhering to the NEC is crucial for ensuring the safety and reliability of electrical and communication systems. By following the code's requirements, it is possible to minimize the risk of electrical shock, fire, and interference, and to ensure that all systems operate properly. The NEC is updated regularly to reflect changes in technology and best practices. It is important to stay current with the latest edition of the code to ensure that all installations are in compliance. In addition to the NEC, there may be other applicable codes and standards that must be followed. These may include local built-in codes, fire codes, and industry-specific standards. It is important to research and comply with all applicable codes and standards to ensure that all installations are safe and compliant. When in doubt, it is always best to consult with a qualified professional to obtain guidance and assistance. Understanding the NEC requirements for separating communication cables from electrical conductors and ensuring accessible communication outlets is essential for network specialists. Proper installation practices prevent interference, ensure safety, and facilitate maintenance. Violations of these codes can lead to data loss, electrical hazards, and difficulties in troubleshooting and repair. Therefore, adherence to the NEC is not only a legal requirement, but also a critical aspect of responsible network infrastructure management. It is also important to note that while flex conduit is commonly used for electrical wiring, it doesn't automatically provide sufficient separation for communication cables. The NEC specifies the required separation distances and methods, and simply running a Cat5 cable alongside electrical wiring within the same flex conduit typically does not meet these requirements. Proper separation often involves using separate conduits or maintaining a specified distance between the communication and electrical cables. This distance varies depending on the voltage of the electrical conductors and the type of communication cable. Always refer to the NEC for the specific requirements applicable to the installation. Accessible locations for communication outlets are those that allow easy access for inspection, maintenance, and repair. This means that the outlet should not be hidden behind walls, ceilings, or other obstructions. They should be easily reachable and provide adequate working space for technicians to perform their duties. Attics and crawl spaces are generally considered inaccessible locations due to their limited access and potentially hazardous conditions. Therefore, communication outlets should not be installed in these areas. In summary, the NEC provides clear guidelines for separating communication cables from electrical conductors and ensuring accessible communication outlets. Adhering to these guidelines is essential for safety, reliability, and compliance with electrical codes. Network specialists should be familiar with these requirements and ensure that all installations meet the NEC standards. This promotes a safe and efficient network infrastructure. Now let's elaborate on some of the specific scenarios and considerations related to these NEC violations. Firstly, consider the situation where Cat5 cables are running through the same hole in the wall as electrical cables in flex conduit. This is a clear violation of NEC 800.53 because it places communication and electrical cables in very close proximity at proper separation. The flex conduit is designed to protect the electrical wiring, but it does not provide adequate shielding or separation to prevent interference or electrical hazards to the Cat5 cables. To correct this situation, the Cat5 cables should be rerouted and placed in a separate pathway, such as a dedicated conduit or a cable tray. The separation distance between the communication and electrical cable should meet the requirements specified in the NEC. Secondly, consider the case where Cat5 cables are running through the wall adjacent to the flex conduit without any raceway of any sort. This is also a violation of NEC 800.53 because it does not provide sufficient separation between the communication and electrical cables. Even though the cables are not in the same conduit, their proximity increases the risk of interference and electrical hazards. To remedy this situation, the Cat5 cable should be rerouted and placed in a separate raceway, such as a conduit or cable tray that is physically separated from the electrical conduit. The separation distance should comply with the NEC requirements. Thirdly, let's discuss the implications of NEC 800.153 regarding accessible locations for communication outlets. This section requires that communication outlets be installed in locations that are easily accessible for inspection, maintenance, and repair. This means that the outlets should not be hidden behind walls, ceilings, or other obstructions. They should be readily available for technicians to access and work on. If communication outlets are installed in inaccessible locations, it can make it difficult to troubleshoot problems and perform necessary maintenance. For example, if an outlet is hidden behind a wall, it may be necessary to cut into the wall to access it, which can be costly and time-consuming. Similarly, if an outlet is located in an attic or crawl space, it may be difficult to access due to the limited space and potentially hazardous conditions. To ensure compliance with NEC 800.153, communication outlets should be installed in locations that are free from obstructions and that provide adequate working space. The outlet should be easily reachable and should not be located in areas that are difficult to access. In addition to the specific scenarios described above, there are other considerations to keep in mind when installing communication cables and electrical wiring. For example, it is important to use the correct type of cable for the application. Cat5 cables are designed for data communication and should not be used for electrical power transmission. Similarly, electrical wiring should not be used for data communication. It is also important to properly terminate and connect all cables and wires. Loose or poorly connected cables can cause interference and electrical hazards. All connections should be made in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions and should be inspected regularly to ensure that they are secure. Furthermore, it is important to properly ground all electrical equipment and wiring. Grounding provides a path for electrical current to flow in the event of a fault, which can help to prevent electrical shock and fire. The grounding system should be installed in accordance with the NEC requirements. Finally, it is important to regularly inspect and maintain all electrical and communication systems. This includes checking for damaged cables, loose connections, and other potential hazards. Any problems should be corrected promptly to prevent further damage or injury. In conclusion, understanding and complying with the NEC requirements for separating communication cables from electrical conductors and ensuring accessible communication outlets is essential for safety, reliability, and compliance. Network specialists should be familiar with these requirements and should ensure that all installations meet the NEC standards. This promotes a safe and efficient network infrastructure. Furthermore, it's important to remember that the NEC is not just a set of rules but a comprehensive guide to electrical safety. By following the NEC, you can minimize the risk of electrical shock, fire, and interference, and ensure that all electrical and communication systems operate properly. The NEC is updated regularly to reflect changes in technology and best practices. It is important to stay current with the latest edition of the code to ensure that all installations are in compliance. In addition to the NEC, there may be other applicable codes and standards that must be followed. These may include local building codes, fire codes, and industry-specific standards. It is important to research and comply with all applicable codes and standards to ensure that all installations are safe and compliant. When in doubt, it is always best to consult with a qualified professional to obtain guidance and assistance. The consequences of violating the NEC can be severe, ranging from fines and penalties to property damage and personal injury. In some cases, violations can even lead to criminal charges. Therefore, it is essential to take the NEC seriously and to ensure that all electrical and communication installations are in compliance. When planning a new electrical or communication installation, it is always a good idea to consult with a qualified professional. A qualified electrician or electrical contractor can help you to design and install a system that meets the NEC requirements and that is safe and reliable. They can also provide guidance on selecting the appropriate materials and equipment and can ensure that all work is performed in accordance with the code. In addition to the NEC, there are other resources available to help you learn about electrical safety. The National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, offers a variety of training courses and materials on electrical safety. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, also provides information on electrical safety in the workplace. By taking advantage of these resources, you can increase your knowledge of electrical safety and help to prevent accidents and injuries. Remember, electrical safety is everyone's responsibility. By following the NEC and other applicable codes and standards, you can help to create a safe and reliable electrical environment for yourself, your family, and your community. In essence, the separation requirements outlined in NEC 800.53 are not merely suggestions but mandatory guidelines designed to prevent potentially hazardous situations. These hazards can manifest in various forms, including but not limited to electromagnetic interference disrupting data transmission, electrical shorts leading to equipment damage, and, in the most severe cases, electrical fires endangering lives and property. Therefore, strict adherence to these separation requirements is paramount in ensuring the safety and reliability of both electrical and communication systems. Furthermore, the accessibility requirements stipulated in NEC 800.153 are equally crucial for facilitating efficient maintenance and troubleshooting of communication outlets. By ensuring that these outlets are readily accessible, technicians can quickly identify and resolve any issues that may arise, minimizing downtime and preventing disruptions to network services. This accessibility also allows for regular inspections to be conducted, enabling proactive identification and correction of potential problems before they escalate into major failures. In addition to the aforementioned points, it is important to emphasize the significance of proper grounding in electrical and communication systems. Grounding serves as a vital safety mechanism by providing a low impedance path for fault currents to flow back to the source, thereby minimizing the risk of electrical shock and preventing equipment damage. A properly grounded system also helps to reduce electromagnetic interference, further enhancing the reliability of data transmission. Therefore, ensuring that all electrical and communication equipment is properly grounded in accordance with the NEC requirements is an essential aspect of maintaining a safe and efficient network infrastructure. Moreover, the selection of appropriate cabling and wiring materials is another critical consideration in electrical and communication installations. Using the correct type of cable for the intended application is essential for ensuring optimal performance and preventing potential hazards. For instance, using Cat5 cables for transmitting electrical power is strictly prohibited, as these cables are not designed to handle the voltage and current levels associated with electrical power transmission. Similarly, using electrical wiring for data communication is also not recommended, as it may not provide the necessary shielding and impedance characteristics for reliable data transmission. Therefore, careful consideration should be given to the selection of cabling and wiring materials to ensure that they are appropriate for the intended application and meet the relevant industry standards. Furthermore, proper cable management practices are essential for maintaining a clean, organized, and safe electrical and communication infrastructure. Cables should be neatly bundled and secured to prevent them from becoming entangled or damaged. Cable ties, straps, and other cable management accessories should be used to organize and support the cables, ensuring that they are not subjected to excessive bending or tension. Proper cable management not only enhances the aesthetics of the installation but also facilitates easier maintenance and troubleshooting, reducing the risk of accidental disconnections or damage to the cables. In addition to the technical aspects of electrical and communication installations, it is also important to consider the administrative and regulatory requirements. Electrical and communication installations are typically subject to various codes, standards, and regulations which may vary depending on the jurisdiction. It is essential to be familiar with these requirements and to ensure that all installations are performed in accordance with the applicable codes and standards. Obtaining the necessary permits and approvals before commencing any electrical or communication work is also crucial for ensuring compliance with local regulations. Furthermore, maintaining accurate records of all electrical and communication installations, including wiring diagrams, cable schedules, and test reports, is essential for facilitating future maintenance and troubleshooting activities. In conclusion, ensuring the safety, reliability, and compliance of electrical and communication installations requires a comprehensive understanding of the relevant codes, standards, and best practices. By adhering to the NEC requirements for separating communication cables from electrical conductors, ensuring accessible communication outlets, proper grounding, selecting appropriate cabling and wiring materials, implementing proper cable management practices, and complying with all applicable administrative and regulatory requirements, network specialists can create a safe and efficient network infrastructure that meets the needs of their organization while protecting the safety of personnel and property.